Today on Doomed! It's the right-wing social media purge. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This week, it was very reminiscent of that summer day back 2 years ago when suddenly every tech company, well, at least every major tech company, decided that we didn't want Alex Jones on our platform anymore, of course, after hosting him for many, many years. But this time around, it was white nationalist here, white nationalist there, a Boogaloo movement there, a Boogaloo movement here, and of course, the Trump campaign itself. Here to talk with me about all of that and much, much more, and by much, much more, I mean some scoops that he also has pertaining to very particular right-wingers, right-wing grifters too. Jared Holt of right.
Pinter.
Whoa. Let me finish introducing you. Hold on, let me pull you up here. First of all, we're not even on the screen yet. Here we go. Jared Holt of Right Wing Watch and the Shitpost podcast, I should say. I mean, it's just Shitpost, but it's hard to just say like Jared Holt of Shitpost without also saying like what it is, because it sounds like it could be, quite frankly, anything.
Right. Yeah, sorry I jumped the gun there. We've done so many shows together at this point. I think I just assumed the role of a co-host and blurted in.
Right, you just feel
thanks for having me again, man.
You just feel at home here. I love it.
I am. Me and the Doomed Gang. What's up, folks?
All right. There's now a clicking sound. Oh, it's gone. Weird. If you haven't noticed, I mean, again, podcast listeners aren't going to realize anything, but for the live stream listeners, a little bit late today because of some technical issues. Simple things sometimes are very hard to do. But that being said, Jared, it's great to have you here. Let's get right to it.
Let's do it. Let's dive right in. I was gonna bring the puppy on stream for a little bit, but he is. I think he needs to spend some time with his mom for a second and wear down for a little bit before he pays a visit.
Right. Well, we'll see him later, maybe. How about that?
Yeah. We'll see. If he starts to get a little bit tired and starts behaving a little better, we'll have him on. And he's got a lot of thoughts about all these right wing hacks too. It's really amazing how quick they learn.
Right. Now, Jared, the big story this week that everyone's talking about. Let's get right to this. YouTubers Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson are now officially canceled. That's the big news.
I don't know who either of those people are. I'm so insulated in my own shit that like I have no idea.
You sort of ruined my joke where I was gonna go. This is the big news, but we're not here to talk about that. But anyway, on to other things. No, what's her face? Kellyanne Conway's daughter is apparently a left-wing TikTok star. I have to look further into that to find out just how left-wing we're talking about. If we're just talking like shitlib or true or Comrade Conway.
I'm just picturing that like okay boomer video, but it's just like okay Mueller, okay.
Oh my! I mean, from just seeing, from vaguely browsing it, I saw that apparently she is a LGBTQ supporter, Black Lives Matter promoter on TikTok. So it's like, already she's not only more normal than her mom, but also more normal than her dad. So, but let me look more into this before I'm heralding the next blue wave emoji Twitter account. Right. Hashtag the resistance. So Jared, you work as a reporter for a wonderful organization called Right Wing Watch, and obviously working as a reporter at a organization called Right Wing Watch, as everyone who listens to the show knows by now, you cover the right. And
yeah, it's weird. Today, just today, somebody asked me yet again why I don't cover Joy Ann Reid's old blog posts. And I, just have to remind them what the name of the
I mean,
the outlet is.
to be honest, I get what you're saying, but I think those blog posts might, if you read them, they might classify as right wing. So you might have to get on top of that eventually.
Yeah, I always get stuck on that, man. Like like where the lines are. But there's been good reporters who've already reported that story into the ground.
Right.
And everyone should read it before they decide to become a Joy Reid superfan. But
Right.
that's a different conversation, different day.
Yeah, definitely. But the conversation for today is, well, let's start in chronological order. The week starts with Reddit announcing that it was banning a number of subreddits that it said spread hate speech, and it has new hate speech policies that it also rolled out at the same time. It banned the Soy Boys subreddit. It banned
Brutal.
I believe another one was the New Right subreddit. It banned the Cumtown subreddit.
Savage.
And it banned two subreddits that it actually went out of its way to discuss in its announcement of this new policy and the banned subreddits. And those two subreddits that they used as their example was the Donald and the Chapo Trap House subreddit.
Two subreddits that are completely the same with no difference at all.
Right. Now, I do know that the apparently the Chapo guys, or at least some of them, were not fans of what was going on in the Chapo subreddit. Apparently, it was an audience that listened to Chapo, but wasn't necessarily in line with them in terms of how they acted on that forum. However,
Yeah, I didn't spend much time on there, but from what I have seen, it was only ever brought to my attention when it was at its worst. But yeah, some of the stuff on there.
right. I will say though that I've been defending the subreddit for a very important reason, and the fact of the matter is that every 6 or 7 months I would happen upon that subreddit, and I would see someone recommending my show. So, for all intents and purposes, the subreddit was good. So, just to get that out there. I don't know what else happened on there. I do know my name was brought up, probably many times, not in a good way, but it was also brought up in a positive way, which I saw. So, endorsement from me.
It's a low bar, Matt.
But anyway, no matter what terrible shit was happening on the Chapo subreddit, the idea that Reddit would, in their announcement, equate the two was just ridiculous to me. And let's put this full out there, because I don't want people all of a sudden thinking like, oh, that's funny. This all of a sudden rolling out my free speech is being censored because of a social media ban. Interesting. No. Reddit is fully within their right to ban the Chapo Trap House subreddit. So long, Chapo Trap House subreddit. I don't care. But the idea that in their announcement they would equate the two, it just goes to show you in a broader sense, not because, they're hurting the Chapo fans' feelings. No, I don't care about that. In a broader sense, it shows that this platform has no clue what they're doing. Because to equate the two is basically saying, obviously, the word equate means that they're the same. When they're not. I mean, they could both be breaking your rules, but the idea that, and they use this in their announcement, that it shows that this policy will affect across the ideological spectrum, or across the aisles. They said something like that, to that effect. No, I mean, both of them broke your rules, fine. But this doesn't show that you were going to. That's not what it is at all. Because I think a great example is basically this. Ilhan Omar was frequently, quite frankly, attacked in every way, shape, and form on the Donald subreddit, the Donald Trump fan subreddit. Terrible, horrible Islamophobic stuff, to the point where it wasn't just people talking to each other about her. it led to actual real harassment of her, real world harassment, not just on Twitter either, where they're adding her, literal people calling her up and harassing her, saying terrible things. And then on the flip side, across the aisle on the Chapo Trap House subreddit, you have a podcast that had literally had Ilhan Omar on their show, and a fan base that obviously listened to that show and are fans of hers. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you would equate the two. No matter what terrible, stupid shit you saw in Chapo, not the same.
Right, and I don't know enough about the subreddit to even come out and say, like, the Chapo subreddit did not deserve to get banned. I don't know. I have seen some pretty bad stuff on it. If I knew more, maybe I could say for sure, but I would just be speculating on that point. But what that equivocation told me was that Reddit, like all these other social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, Google, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit is, yet another one of these platforms that's sensitive to this criticism that, like, conservatives are being shadow banned, or like conservatives are being targeted online, and kind of like did this performative stunt almost, and like to make this point that no, we're not like that. See, we've got the bad left wing and the bad right wing, and they're both gone. And it, just kind of obliterating any sort of nuance that may have existed between the two, or possibly even downplaying just the sheer like destructive quality that the Donald kind of became famous for.
Right. I mean, it's just, and the idea that, and another thing that was that we can't not bring up. I just wanted to first bring up the equivocation of the two, because that really, is something that you always see from obviously media companies, politicians, social media platforms. The idea that it's both sides, and of course the real story, the facts and the truth, and the people who are right must be somewhere in the middle. No, not at all. That's not the case at all. But another thing that is impossible to not point out is they took this action against the Donald subreddit after the subreddit was already in a state of what Reddit calls quarantine, where basically no one's posting on there anymore. In fact, I think the most recent post on there was somewhere like 7-8 months old. So they basically made a big, they flaunted the fact that they shut down an already dead forum.
Yeah, so I believe Chapo Trap House subreddit was also quarantined, meaning that people can post to the subreddit, but that nothing from the subreddit like leaves the subreddit. Basically, unless you like go seek out the exact subreddit page, or you're already subscribed to it or something, like you won't see this content. But the Donald was kind of like notorious for also kind of just like flaunting Reddit rules for the longest time. And I think maybe up until the day it got deactivated, there was no downvote button on the Donald, only upvote buttons. And their users would just brigade the Reddit algorithm to try to get pro-Trump stuff into the front page. So there's some very clear platform manipulation happening too that Reddit, really dragged its feet on for, I guess, more than 4 years at this point.
Right. I mean, 4 years is even being generous. Reddit's the original platform for all these terrible online trolls and the people who were ironic racism and all these other right wing factions. Fuck, you could basically say that Reddit is actually the ground zero for all this shit. If you really want to trace at least the modern online reactionary movement, it all traces back to the men's rights movement, which was huge on Reddit. I mean, that was their main forum.
It was massive on Reddit. I mean, at the time, you couldn't go on Reddit without seeing like some thread of legal advice for like divorced dads and stuff like that. That was, at least in my early Reddit experience, that stuff was front and center.
And most of the biggest pro Gamergate personalities were basically hanging out on Kotaku in Action, which was the Gamergate forum, where basically they would talk in there and, organize whatever, mass harassment campaign they would roll out on another platform. Like, basically they would post a story in there and a bunch of people would get all riled up in the comments and then take it to that person's Twitter page or wherever they would go, which of course would then eventually lead to a few of those people even grabbing phone numbers, doxing individuals, showing up to harass people in real life. Reddit was like really where this shit all began. So congratulations, Reddit, for doing something, to be generous, I think 4 is too generous. To be generous, 8 years down the line, maybe, I would say.
Yeah, and one more thing that I'll note about the Donald is that although the Donald was just like a force of nature, really, online during the 2016 election, I mean, even as recently as like last year, you have Fox News personalities and stuff going to the Donald and looking up stuff. Or like going there for ideas of what to post online or for like what, opinions to pontificate on the TV that night. But ever since that subreddit was quarantined, I think it was last year, it's just been kind of like a ghost town. I was talking with my buddy Will Summer. I think he said something to this effect of like it had mostly just become Tom Fitton pics at this point. Like it was just Judicial Watch, like Tom Fitton beefy selfies back to back to back for the past few months. All of the users of the Donald, as soon as they got quarantined, they kind of saw the writing on the walls and figured something like this one day was going to happen, and ended up moving to a secondary site that's built on, I believe it's like an old engine of Reddit, or it's like a modulation of an old Reddit format. So they're all hanging out there in about what is probably like the most robust echo chamber you could possibly imagine.
Right. And I think it's also important actually to understand where this all came from. What it took for Reddit to literally make these changes. And what it took was for George Floyd to be killed by police in Minnesota, for a huge backlash to just yet another case of police brutality in this country, claiming the life of an unarmed black man, to the point where mass Black Lives Matter protests spread across the country, which then trickled down into corporate America, who decided we should also look within and see the racism that's within us, which led to the founder of Reddit, who no longer was a regular employee or CEO or whatever, but he was on the board, to say that he was going to leave his seat so that a black man would be put on the board. And he could only actually suggest they put a black man on the board, or a woman, a black person on the board. He couldn't actually make that happen. But it took that for all of that to happen just for Reddit to go ahead and go, maybe we should change some policies here. Like,
right. I mean, like a lot of this, and like whether it's Reddit, whether it's the stuff we'll talk about other as we go on, but a lot of this is just like corporate boardrooms being like, okay, I looked on the Facebook and racism is bad again. What are we doing about racism? And then they're like, well, we have these hate speech policies we wrote last year, but we didn't really do a whole lot with them. And they're like, yeah, okay, let's try to do something with those. And here we are, man.
Right. Well, and I also have to point out that, and this is, good for them. I think it's beautiful that they're together. But I do wonder how much the Reddit founder ending up meeting, going out with, and marrying Serena Williams had to do with his outlook on life. All of a sudden, he was...
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was, the founder of Reddit is married to Serena Williams. They have kids. Wonderful. I love it. Great. Two rich people meeting and having a wonderful, who cares? It's great. But the idea that when he was running Reddit, there was no problem with a subreddit that was called Coontown. The idea that all these things had to happen for some of these people to wake up and go, maybe we should do something about what's happening. Like, they always had the power.
Right. And people that listen to this show, people that listen to my show, will be no strangers of like criticisms of this power. But I do think that in the long run, this makes me kind of optimistic, I guess. Like, what is finally starting to happen, unfortunately, it's like a little piece at a time, is we're kind of getting to the point where this idea of like the libertarian free speech utopia internet is kind of degrading in the public consciousness, and there's less public trust of these companies. And not only that, but it's becoming more and more apparent all the time the extent of the damage that this does, especially as these platforms explode and scale further and further, reaching more and more users, becoming more and more integrated in our daily lives. Like, this vision, while in a utopia would be great, right? It's just not sustainable.
Right.
So maybe that's my like silver lining in this, is like maybe we're starting to get to the point where the people who are in charge of the decisions are kind of getting to think that way. But they also have like huge cartoonish bags of money piling up behind them. So
Right.
it might be a while, is what I'm saying.
Listen, I'm actually one of those people who is like who feels like, I would be completely open to an actually freely open platform that anything goes. Like, I'm open to the idea, literally even the worst of the worst on there. But
you sign a waiver and just go.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're still culpable with money you make. So, if you decide that you run this platform, this free speech platform, and there are no rules, you can't all of a sudden decide that something's not good for business and ban just certain types of stuff that are bad for business, pornography and all that stuff included, that all has to be open. If you truly believe that anyone should be able to say anything, which I totally get. I mean, I would be open for that sort of platform. Then cool, no rules at all, let it happen. But that's never the case. These guys always find particular rules that, like I mentioned pornography, all of a sudden, like on Instagram, adult stars can't even be on there. They're not doing anything illegal. They're not doing anything wrong. They just happen to have a line of work that Facebook says is unacceptable for the Instagram platform. I mean, the idea that any of these, and then look at the recent. I mean, we should really do a whole episode on Parler for another day. But Parler's that new. Basically, it's the new Gab. So far, not as extreme as the Gab. As the Gab. What am I? A boomer? Calling it the Gab like the YouTube? Not as extreme as Gab, but it could get there. I mean, it's crazy. But so Parler basically came out with
Should I plug my Parler?
Oh, my Parler's Matt Binder.
You can follow me on Parler at jholtrww.
Oh, cool. Also, and I don't know if I should be saying, I'm not going to say what it is, but I also am running an account that belongs to a prominent right-winger who did not grab their account and isn't on Parler, that's already racked up a few thousand subscribers.
You can tell me off air. I want to check this out.
Right. Yep. I mean, I'm running it as if it is this person. But
what's the like? Eventually, you're gonna make the flip, or what?
I'm waiting to see where this goes, how big it could get, and then I'll figure out what. I'm actually just waiting for it to get banned eventually, but we'll see what happens. Who knows? Because I saw some people would create a fake account and then just get maybe 50 followers and then ruin the gimmick. Nah, this is you gotta go with the long con here. You gotta keep this going. You gotta rack them up.
Yeah, you gotta go for the long con and then slowly convert the Parler audience into doomed mega fans.
Oh no, I'm not even sure.
First starts out with this Matt Binder guy. He's got kind of a cool podcast, right? And just go from there, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna say who he or she is.
You wanna say it so bad? Just text it to me or something.
Well, I'm gonna, just so people can get reaction. Don't give away nothing, but I'm gonna tell you on Skype right now because this is too funny.
Okay.
You're gonna think it's hilarious because this is a pretty prominent person.
Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, you got to keep that going as long as you can.
You weren't expecting someone that big, admit it. You were thinking someone
No,
like,
no, no, no. I would have thought that this person was on there already for sure. But
and I literally have the username. Like, it's not even like I needed to add something. Like, it's the same name that he or she uses everywhere. So
well done, Matt.
so anywho, where were we talking now that I got distracted by this? Oh yeah. So, even on Parler, the right-wing social network, the founder of that ends up coming out this week. All these right-wingers are going there because it's the free speech mecca. Their new free speech haven where they can be free and won't face the censorship of other social media organizations. He comes out with a list of rules that actually, it's like, I believe it's something like 4 out of the 5 rules on Parler aren't rules on Twitter. The social network they're trying to compete with. There's no pornography. You can't have curses in your username. You can't post obscene pictures or say obscenities. You can't reply to someone and just say the word fuck. It's like, whoa, I thought this was a free speech. I mean, what you can do is go on there and use the N-word. So I guess that's what they mean by free speech. But you can also do that on Twitter, basically. So I mean. But
right. It's like walking around, being like, hey, no profanity, and then there's like, you guys are cool. No obscenity. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just like really kind of pulling reasons out of the hat to ban people who aren't right-wing people, right? And again, it's their platform. I guess it's their right to do it, but it's preposterous to me for them to do that and also posture as like, we're not right wing or left wing, we just love free speech, when it's like very obvious to anybody else like what is happening here.
Right.
Although personally, I love having all my conservative faves in one spot. It kind of cleans up the timeline on Twitter a little bit, and I figure, have the Twitter for the stuff I like, have the Parler for the stuff I have to keep an eye on for work. That's called work-life balance to me.
Right,
in my book.
right. Some people in the chat are telling me that I shouldn't even have given away anything about the Parler account. I look at it this way. I think it's racking up followers, but I don't think it's gonna make it so far. I'm basically rolling the dice to see how big it could get, which means I could lose it and never do anything with it. But to me, it's worth it for the long game here. And if it gets banned, then just getting the reaction from you and the people in the chat right now made it all worth it. So let's move on to the next network that made news. Literally like an hour after Reddit announces their subreddit bans, Twitch comes out, and this is a big deal to me. I think this one got sort of swept under the rug because it's not as big of a ban. Twitch gave a 30-day suspension to the Trump campaign's official Twitch account. Now, I think people need to understand here that when we talk about all these things getting banned, like that Reddit, that Donald Trump subreddit, that wasn't connected to Trump, wasn't connected to the official campaign. Yes, they probably more than surely went on there, but they didn't create it. They weren't running it. This was the official Trump campaign Twitch account, and it got a 30-day suspension for broadcasting 2 Trump rallies. And the suspension was due to things Trump said at the rally.
Right. Yeah. Trump's political rally speeches violate Twitch TOS.
Right. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah. That's hard to wrap your head around.
Right.
Because every other platform, Facebook, Twitter are the 2 like really big ones, have just broken their backs over the years to be like, well, okay, Trump says the mean thing, but he's the president, and we're not going to censor the president. And then Twitch is just like, nope, fuck you. See you later. Have your 30 days.
Right. I get that it's their rules to do the 30-day suspension, but what? Do they think the Twitch suspension is going to change the content of Donald Trump's rally speeches? I mean, that account's not long for Twitch. And if it is, then Twitch isn't very serious about their rules. I mean, there's no. I get it. Maybe it's the first strike, and they have a very strict policy that they. I mean, kudos to Twitch for actually. They specifically, in a statement when I covered it, told me that they have a rule where it doesn't matter how newsworthy the account is. Their policies are enacted the same on every single user, whether it's the president of the United States or you and me, Jared. So I commend that, I guess. But I mean, there's no way that account's gonna last the election.
I mean, surely not. If they're streaming Trump live, I can't imagine how it would, especially given like the last few days where Trump's polls have been bad and they're not getting better, and the coronavirus is picking back up and things are getting desperate. So you have Trump tweeting about stuff like rules against segregated housing needing to be repealed and stuff. And it's like, if this is what the campaign trail is going to look like, yeah, no way he's staying on there. But I really kind of respect Twitch more than I do like a Twitter or a Facebook for this, simply because of that consistency. I am of the same thing, if you're going to make the argument that Twitch or Facebook or Twitter or whatever is a private platform and they have the right to ban people, they also have the right to keep like whatever they want on there too if they assume the liability for it. But what has been so frustrating with places like Twitch, with Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, has just been the insane inconsistency and like no transparency over like, why does this stay up but this gets taken down, that sort of thing. Right. So I guess like as much as you don't have to hand it to them, I gotta hand it to them for Twitch, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because it appears that we have a right-wing celeb in the chat. I'm guessing you retweeted my tweet, and I'm guessing he's on there and saw it, even though he's technically banned from that platform. I think this is the real Baked Alaska in the YouTube chat.
Wait, for real?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Tim, what's up, dude? You still working for Uber Eats?
It's gotta be him, right? I don't know who.
I don't know if he works for Uber Eats. Someone told me that in passing.
I think it's the real Baked Alaska. All right.
Well, now I have to go look. Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but yeah. Is it the real Baked Alaska? I mean, the username is Baked Alaska.
It's hard to tell, right? Because
on YouTube, it's really difficult because anyone could basically make their username anything, and they have this weird thing where your username is different from your channel name.
I don't know, man. You just talked about doing the fake account. I would tap the brakes on this for now.
All right, well, let's now get to the one that, I mean, you're the first person I saw. Well, let's talk about the platform. We're also on Periscope and Twitch, but the main platform we're on is YouTube. So you're the first person I saw tweeting out this information. Did you have some sort of insider? I would need you to relay your sources to me live on the air.
As a general policy, I don't talk about sourcing, but for me, it was just like another day monitoring the far right, and I saw Stefan Molyneux being like, "Wah, I got banned on YouTube," and I was like, "Hey, that's kind of a big deal." And then I see like Richard Spencer fans being like, "Man, Richard was banned from YouTube," and I was like, "Huh," and it's just like went around in a circle. And once I figured out like more than a couple people got banned, I went hunting it down and emailed YouTube a request for comment. I will say, Will Sommer, he's damn good. He beat me to this story on the Daily Beast by 3 minutes.
But I saw your tweets first, so I think that should count for something.
Hey, maybe. You said it.
All right. Well, maybe
we love Will Sommer though.
Maybe that sounded very Trump rally-esque, by the way. We love our Will Sommer folks, don't we?
Some people say Right Richter is the best newsletter I've ever read.
Oh, man, according to my listeners, Baked Alaska is legit. Mr. Baked Alaska, you should come on the show. We could talk about your time at BuzzFeed. That actually is the topic
I would actually love
I
to
want
know
to talk about.
more
Yes.
about that.
Yes, I really would. Well, he said, let me in there and I will box Jared. I invited you to talk on the podcast. I didn't invite you to have a boxing match with my guest. But oh, man. All right, so back to this YouTube stuff. Now, let's quickly, because again, you could literally do a whole podcast series on each one of these guys, to be quite frank. But so who were all the personalities who were, and that's really what they mainly are. They were far right, white nationalist YouTube personalities. Some of these guys have been on the platform for literally a decade. So again, can't really. It's good that YouTube decided to take action because these were clearly accounts that were breaking their policies. But I mean, again, Stefan Molyneux was on that platform long enough to have built up a nearly 1 million subscriber YouTube channel. I mean,
right. I mean, you had like people of different scales. To be totally clear, like I was a little bit surprised to see Stefan grouped in with the other people that made the sort of big six that YouTube announced they had banned. So you had Stefan Molyneux, who's a like political pundit talker. You call talker? Do people still call them talkers?
yeah.
Used to call that for like radio people. Like Rush Limbaugh was a right wing talker. But so Stefan was a like far right talker and like self help guru. He called himself a philosopher, even though I don't think he had any like qualification to do that. And then you had National Policy Institute / Radix. That's Richard Spencer's sort of media project. You had American Renaissance, a decades-old white nationalist organization that explicitly advocates for white people to like form a ethno-state, basically. You had that. You had David Duke. Didn't know he was even still on there. And then you had Richard Spencer's personal account, and then the American Renaissance podcast account. And I think that's the 6.
Right. Now, this is interesting that you said that about David Duke, because I covered the YouTube thing too, obviously well after you and Will, but I wasn't trying to get a scoop. But in my defense, but that is one thing I came across when I was doing my research. David Duke's YouTube was previously suspended, or at least there were reports that it was suspended, like a year or two ago. So I never really got an answer. I just assumed from looking around that he had created a new account, or his account got unsuspended at a point. Like it was just a temporary suspension.
I have no idea. I could not look at you with a straight face and say David Duke is an influential political figure to more than like maybe a few hundred people. So I didn't keep tabs on him that close. I don't know what the story was there, but when I saw it on the list with like, yeah, we suspended David Duke, I was just kind of like, whoa. Yeah, I had the same thing where I just had to kind of tap the brakes for a second and be like, how long was this going on?
Right. I mean, I mean, it's. Who would you say the biggest account? Like, who was the most influential one of these guys? I mean, I know, but I want to hear who you think, just in case we disagree.
Oh, dude, Molyneux, no chance, dude. I mean, like it. This guy had almost 1 million followers. He was having people on his show regularly, like Mike Cernovich. I believe someone will have to check me on this. Jack Posobiec went on. Katie Hopkins. You know, it was like Free Domain Radio. His little program was like the stomping grounds for the far right. You could go there and get these huge audiences. I remember going to this like Mike Cernovich party to report on it in New York one time, and Jack Posobiec was like, "Oh, I've seen the metrics for Stefan Molyneux's videos, and he has like a 90% watch rate, which is insane on any video. It's like that viewers are staying through 90% of the video before dropping out." So he not only had if that's true, he not only had a massive audience, he had a almost like religious audience. But make no mistake, Molyneux was this far right and anti-immigrant and like white nationalist, sympathetic as the best of them. He went to Poland. He made this documentary saying that his trip to Poland, excuse me, that his trip to Poland, he's an empiricist, so it made him like, empirically believe that white nationalism wasn't bad. There's just so many different kind of statements like that. Stefan Molyneux could be, like you said, another one of these like 8-part podcast series if we were going to do it real justice. But it's hard to overstate like how much influence he had in far right YouTube.
Right. Yeah. It's that's who I 100% was going to say, because that is without a doubt who and I have this clip I think I should play, because this is a clip from 2014, and I mean the shit he's saying here, it's clear as day that this should not be, this is not a platform where you should go out and say this stuff, according to YouTube's own rules, even at the time. Yet somehow he always skated by. I mean, let's play this clip.
Women who choose the assholes will fucking end this race. They will fucking end this human race if we don't start holding them fucking accountable.
I agree with that. They are the gatekeepers, as you've said, and others have said. Yes.
Look, women who choose assholes guarantee child abuse. Women who choose assholes guarantee criminality, sociopathy, politicians, all the cold-hearted jerks who run the world came out of the vaginas of women who married assholes. And I don't know how to make the world a better place without holding women accountable for choosing assholes. Your dad was an asshole because your mother chose him. Because it works on so many women. If asshole wasn't a great reproductive strategy, it would have been gone long ago. Women keep that black bastard flame alive. They cup their hands around it. They protect it with their bodies. They keep the evil of the species going by continually choosing these guys. If being an asshole didn't get women, there would be no assholes left. If women chose nice guys over assholes, we would have a glorious and peaceful world in one generation. Women determine the personality traits of the men because women choose who to have sex with and who to have children with and who to expose those children to. I get that you're angry at your dad, and you have every reason to be angry at your dad. Your dad is who he is fundamentally because your mother was willing to fuck him and have you. Willing and eager to fuck the monster. Stop fucking monsters, we get a great world. Keep fucking monsters, we get catastrophes. We get war, we get nuclear weapons, we get national debts, we get incarcerations and prison guards and all the other florid assholes who rule the world. Women worship at the feet of the devil and wonder why the world is evil. And then, you know what they say? We're victims. Poor us. And some women are, absolutely. But dear God in heaven, men will become whatever women want them to become. Because women are the gatekeepers. Men will become whatever women want them to become. Oh! So I think that if you accept that women are central to the cycle of evil in the world, then you will be able to see how it really reproduces. Evil is of matriarchal lineage.
Wait for it.
In the present, I'm not talking, in the Mongol horde and rapes and blah, blah, blah.
Wait for it.
Evil passes through the mother. It's Jewish.
There you go. I mean,
Whoa, what?
yeah, there you go. Because Judaism is passed through your mother. That's the rules of Judaism. If you are born to a Jewish father and a non-Jewish mother, technically, in the eyes of the Jewish faith, you're not Jewish. However, if you are born to a Jewish mother and a non-Jewish father, in the eyes of the Jewish faith, you are Jewish because it's passed through your mother. But, he had to, of course, blame the Jews at the end there. But the whole thing is insane, and obviously, this is someone who has an intense hatred for women. In fact, this particular clip I played is one that has stuck with me since I first heard it in 2014. If you look back into the Majority Report archives from when I was on the show, I did an entire segment on this particular episode, this clip, that you could find still on Sam Cedar's YouTube channel. The thing that this clip is, he literally is saying that men have no agency. Every problem in the world is because of women. And even if a man does it, it's because a woman made him do it. Because if he didn't do it, a woman wouldn't find him attractive and would deny him sex. That's literally his entire outlook for how the world works. Women control everything because they can choose if men have or do not have sex, which is insane. Also, by the way, this clip is the one I used when I was debating Paul Elam way back when. And I hinted at him that when I quoted this section from this clip, I hinted that this was actually a quote from Elliot Rodgers' manifesto. And Paul Elam said something like it was the sickest, most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I informed him that it was actually a clip from a guy who just spoke at his men's rights conference, Stefan Molyneux. And he wasn't too pleased that I tricked him like that.
Oh, man. Yeah, but I mean, the whole reason for playing that clip, right? In 2014, this was Molyneux. And it's like, for every clip like that, there's a dozen more. And people do the thing with Stefan that they used to do with Jordan Peterson when he was still rocking and rolling, saying like, well, you just haven't watched enough Stefan Molyneux. I have watched, it's got to be hundreds, if not almost thousands of hours of Stefan Molyneux to this date. And a lot of it is like that. Like, it's a very dense 1 hour episode, but then there'll be like a 10-minute slot in there that's just something like this that comes out of nowhere. And, that was okay. It's hard to know if there was really like a trigger point or something specific that made YouTube finally decide to take action here, or if it was just kind of the, timing of the opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Just listen to it. It's deranged. It's crazy. It's not even like, it's not even your general misogyny or it's well beyond that. It's truly insane. I mean, it's a worldview that you couldn't even make up because it's so far out there. So yeah, you got this guy banned. You got Richard Spencer, who, by the way, interesting story about Richard Spencer. That YouTube channel that got banned one of those dudes that was on that channel up until he got outed by his real name, I went to high school with, and I didn't even know he was one of those dudes. His name was like Josh or something like that. He was a regular on Richard Spencer's podcast, and he lives in Brooklyn, or he lived in Brooklyn. I don't know where he is now. He was in like a indie hipster band, just living amongst everyone. No one even knew that he was who he was, but he got outed and he basically disappeared. So that's one podcast that got one YouTube channel that got suspended, and bye. Sucks.
Yeah,
sucks for you.
Yeah, and like Molyneux has since been banned from Twitch, SoundCloud. He's banned from PayPal, MailChimp. I mean, he's running out of places to go, quite frankly. But I guess lucky for him, he's already made just an obscene amount of money doing this. So he'll probably be okay. He could vanish from the spotlight and be perfectly fine. But a big motivating factor for these guys, I think, is that sort of political relevance. So I'm sure we'll see him move to some weird knockoff platform eventually.
Right. Now, Jared, do we bring Baked Alaska on?
I'd rather not, man.
All right.
I don't think I have anything nice to say.
Right. Well. Right. So let's talk about your next. It's totally within. Some people don't want to talk to you, Mr. Baked Alaska, buddy. Call in another time. I'll have you on, and we'll. You can tell me all about your time at BuzzFeed, the most relevant portion of your career. Those pro cop raps were pretty funny too. I'll hand you that. I don't know. I don't think they were intentionally funny, but. Now, Jared, let's talk about. Do you want to talk about Miss Cassandra Fairbanks first? Or would you like to talk about Mr. Caleb Hall first?
Pick one, man. I guess we can start with Cassandra Fairbanks. That was an older story. Where to begin? So this was, I think, the evening of June 1st, if I remember correctly. This feels like a century ago that I reported this, but it was just last month. So Washington, D.C. was having a bunch of protests for Black Lives Matter after police killed George Floyd. And some of those protesters were smashing windows. I think a cop car might have got lit on fire in D.C. or something, but there was some property destruction happening in the city. A very right-wing sort of reaction that was common that night was kind of fear and, the sort of thing where it's like, this is Antifa and they're coming for you and this is what it looks like, and that kind of scaremongering. Cassandra Fairbanks, for a couple of days prior, according to her, had been receiving all kinds of menacing messages saying, things like they wished she was dead. There was one message specifically she shared where someone claimed to have her address, but it doesn't appear from what she shared that person had posted evidence that they had it or, anything like super specific, right? Like if I had taken this to the police, they would have said like, oh, okay, thanks for logging, but this isn't like something we can do something with. So this is happening, the property destruction happens in downtown DC. That's happening. And then on her block at 4 a.m, a big ass thing of fireworks goes off, and this thing's loud. It's like echoing through the neighborhood. There's sparks flying everywhere. And Cassandra Fairbanks connects the two things in her mind. I've been getting these menacing messages. These fireworks are going off. This stuff's happening in downtown DC tonight. I'm being targeted by Antifa. They're here to attack me. And what my investigation found was there really doesn't seem to be proof to back up that claim. There's plenty of proof that fireworks were set off that night. I don't dispute that. There's plenty of proof she called 911. There's plenty of proof she was scared. There's plenty of proof that she, probably genuinely did believe that this was meant for her. But there's not proof of other things that she claims, like that guns were fired. There's no proof that people were banging on the windows of her house or were firing these guns and fireworks at her house. There was no visible property damage from the street. I talked to 8 of her neighbors. All of them said it was fireworks, and 6 of them told me that the fireworks were set up like more than 100 feet away from Fairbanks's house at a spot where, when I was standing in it, I couldn't see her house. So what you have here is like kind of maybe, there's different ways to interpret the situation, right? Like maybe she really did believe that this was meant for her and she was worried and scared. That's one thing, right? But then she goes on to fundraise $25,000 almost from, Gateway Pundit readers and Jack Posobiec fans and whatever to essentially give her a bundle of cash to pick up her whole life and move out of the neighborhood and go to an undisclosed location. So that adds like a whole new twist on it. And I think added some sort of urgency to treat these claims as seriously as they demanded to be treated. But yeah, when I did treat them that way, they kind of seem to, I don't know if I would even say fall apart, but just they don't stand.
Right. Is there a big, I mean, there's certainly more successful grifters, but is there a bigger grifter than Fairbanks? I mean, it is stunning, the turnaround. It wasn't like she was just like a normie Democrat or some like, the cliche like blue collar union guy who just voted blue because his daddy did, and now but he's really, because of social issues, a Trump Republican or whatever. I mean, this is someone who was down at left-wing protests, covering this stuff, very supportive of it. I mean, I actually, if you look through my Twitter account, there's a few times where she added me. Maybe she even deleted them, but there's a few times she added me back in the day before she became a Trump person. And I just ignored them because there was something always a little bit suspect about her to me. So I just stayed away. I didn't call her out because if I was wrong, it'd be, I had nothing to base it on. Just something didn't sit right with me. But I mean, she ended up turning on all that stuff. And she's just like a full-blown, like, Trump sycophant. Like, it isn't even like, she's, she was like an anti-establishment type lefty, or at least she portrayed one back in the day. But now she's not even like one of those anti-establishment right-wingers. Like, even friggin' Richard Spencer says that, Trump doesn't even represent him enough anymore because he's not racist enough or whatever. The idea, but for Fairbanks isn't even like an anti-establishment right-winger. She's straight up just like a Trump can do no wrong. Love Donald Trump, like right-winger. It's incredible just to watch that play because she apparently thinks that's where her biggest move is. Is she still a Gateway Pundit?
She is. She's a contributor there. But yeah, that arc was really weird because you went from like, I support Black Lives Matter, I love Bernie Sanders, to I love Donald Trump. Please write articles about me, BBC. Please write, profile me because I'm an anomaly and I represent this portion of people that I don't think anyone has really shown exist. And then she became kind of, like a pro-Trump toady, but still kind of anti-establishment. I think she probably would have called herself like anti-neocon or something. Against the Bill Kristols of the world. That sort of terminology has some subtext there.
Right.
You guys can look into it for yourself. But
yeah.
But yeah, nowadays, I guess it was like earlier this year or late last year, Fairbanks has just pivoted super hard into the far right, hanging out with people like Nick Fuentes, who's an anti-Semite and a white nationalist, attending conferences hosted by the guy who used to run Identity Europa, and going from being like, I like Trump but I don't like the attacks in Syria or whatever, to just like begging for the Trump administration to use lethal force against Black Lives Matter protesters and stuff. Like you can't suck up to the government harder than that, I don't think.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's completely, it's a complete turn on everything. Like, even, I mean, I can't think of an example off my head, but there's some of those, we call them, what was it? The dumb left on the Majority Report back in the day. The Seth Rich, Bernie Sanders fans who, it's a small, very small subset, but they do exist. The Seth Rich truthers on the left. But those people, it's sort of like, you sort of get where you see it. You see the change, and it's still crazy, but it makes a little bit sense that they're so obsessed with the anti-establishment term, the anti-establishment label, that they'll go wherever they think anti-establishment takes them. So sometimes they end up on the right because they just want to seem anti-establishment, but that doesn't mean they're sucking up to Trump or whatever. She dropped all that. It's just straight up like Trump love.
Yeah, those folks never made sense to me, really, because they're like, I'm anti-establishment. Unless the establishment meets my list of demands, then we will support the establishment wholeheartedly. It's
right.
like, it's not a position, man. You can't just be anti-something. Like, pick some policies or something you like. I don't know, dude. It's not very smart.
Right. Yeah.
I think the dumb left is probably a good label for that.
Right. Yeah. Or some people I think call them the loony left. I don't know. It's a small subset. It's not like there's some big organized. And then I mean organized. I think a lot of people. And there's also the Nazi adjacent people who call themselves leftists, but obviously they're not. Like the Amy Teresa's, and then you have your Michael Tracy's, who people, I think, at least me, I did back when I knew him as one of the reporters down at Occupy in the early 2010s. I always perceived him as being like a libertarian left type person. And back then, obviously that's not the case. But that's certainly how he came across back when he was reporting from Occupy. There's all sorts of weird little subgroups, but none of them is organized like the insane subsections that you see in some right-wing worlds, which brings me to, I guess, Facebook's announcement, which, I mean, they're undergoing a huge... I forgot to bring this up before, actually. I didn't mean to pivot from Cassandra Fairbanks to this, but Facebook also did a major ban this past week where it knocked off a bunch of Boogaloo accounts from their platform. And, they didn't outright ban it, but they said that there was a network of profiles, pages, and groups that basically were part of a violent network that identified as part of the Boogaloo movement, and they gave them the boot. You have 3 of these guys were arrested in Las Vegas for trying to cause violence at a Black Lives Matter protests. And then you have another story where one guy who wrote Boog on his car hood and had the whole Boogaloo, aesthetic going on with his shit. And also, most damning, planned these actions with another person he met in a Boogaloo Facebook group, killed, or allegedly, I should say, killed a federal officer and a sheriff's deputy in California. So, again, I guess, we've been sarcastically saying kudos to YouTube for giving some of these guys a boot 10 years after the fact, or, same with Reddit. I guess for Facebook, props for kicking these guys off after they murdered some people. I mean,
what better time? I say, what better time? No, I mean, it's good, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of extremism, but whenever you have like revolutionary extremism paired with organizing, paired with like regional organizing, paired with a shit ton of firearms, I feel like if anything is going to be a red flag, it's probably going to be one of those, right? Like I don't know. Again, I mean, it's one of those things that could have done something about this, presumably a while ago. I we have to assume Facebook knows what is on its platform, but yeah, it takes blood in the streets to get action.
Right.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't have to be like that.
Right. Now let's get to this last story here. You still have a little bit of time to stick around, or were you going to stick around for
Yeah.
this? All right, cool.
Yeah. I got a minute, and then I'll go get the dog and let him say hi.
Cool. So you had a scoop today. Caleb Hall. Now, to me, he's someone who I think he's probably low energy, to steal a line from Donald Trump, in terms of at least his profile compared to everyone else we spoke about today. I would say the least number of people know who Caleb Hall is. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree. He's played kind of a behind-the-scenes background role for a long time.
So what is his background role, though? Because I will say I think I often get him a little bit confused, actually, with another guy who, let me use this word again, has a similar aesthetic. I think it's a guy who goes by the name Ryan Forn. He works for Daily Caller or something. Same preppy style look.
Are you talking about Ryan Saavedra?
I think that's who I'm talking about, yes.
From Daily Wire?
Daily Wire, okay, not Daily Caller.
Yeah.
Would you say they have a similar sort of vibe to them? Or maybe I'm confusing even them with someone else?
Sorta.
No, I'm confusing them with someone else then.
I don't think it's a clean comparison, really, but they both kind of have existed as the viral video guys on the right.
Oh, you could also say the same about Benny Johnson. I think I'm just confusing them with someone else.
Yeah, I mean, we have people like this, I guess, on the left too. But there's just those accounts that always seem to clip the right moment from TV and put the right spin on it or whatever, and it just explodes all the time. And Caleb Hall was a content guy like that who worked at most recently a super powerful Republican digital ad agency, who would send stuff viral. His sort of claim to fame for a little bit on his Twitter bio before he kind of went into lockdown mode after finding out I was working on this story, was that he had garnered 4 billion views for conservative content online. So this is a guy who wasn't really forward. He wasn't somebody you would see on Fox News or I don't think he did much media appearance. But he was a favorited source of content for right wingers everywhere, whether it's Donald Trump's Jr., the FCC commissioner, members of Congress, all of these people have shared his videos and shared his work.
Now, what exactly was he doing? What was some of the stuff? So you found this account.
Right. So we were tipped off and were able to verify this account from 2014 associated with a gamer tag and a Twitch account used by Caleb Hall. And what was on the account is stuff that, if we're going to stay in the YouTube Twitch terms of service, I cannot repeat, but you can go read for yourself at Right Wing Watch. Let me pull this up real quick. I think I summarized it in a way without using the words that was good.
Are these words that you cannot say in general? We're not just talking about policy here. We're talking about, in general.
So here's from the story. Hole casually deployed the N-word on his Twitter account on several occasions and shared jokes in which the slur was the punchline. In one instance, he remarked that he was banned from a streamer's chat room after he spammed the N-word 17 times. Hole promoted racist tropes about black people, specifically those involving watermelon and fried chicken, black children without fathers, and slaves picking cotton. Hole shared several memes containing these racist tropes, and he cited the same tropes while writing his own captions to images. For example, Hole captioned one image depicting a black man wearing clothing styled after a world map, quote, He's wearing a map so he can find his dad. And that is just kind of a sample of what we found here. All of this was posted in 2014. Holt's a young guy. This would have put him around the ages, I believe, between 17 and 19 when these were posted. Maybe just 17, 18. But yeah, so we're talking like late high school, early college, probably.
Oh, he's that young? I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
guy's-
I think he's 24, 25.
Yeah. Doesn't excuse it, but I just didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah.
What we I don't where is he from again? So first of all, he's that young and he's already got this repertoire behind the scenes in some of these organizations. Where did he come from? What does he have? A parent or something that's entrenched, or is he just, or did he just say the N-word enough where he impressed someone in a Republican think tank?
So he got his start in conservative politics with Turning Point USA.
Oh, well, he said the N-word enough to he impressed someone in a right-wing think tank. Exactly.
So earliest I could trace back was he was I think chapter president and a Ohio field director while he was in college. He was doing video editing. They liked his stuff. He started doing video editing for TPUSA on the national level. Got promoted to, I believe it was content director. And it's just so many. It's bureaucracy, choppy titles. He sort of ascended the ranks a little bit inside TPUSA. Eventually went to Independent Journal Review. Then went to this super powerful firm that I mentioned, Targeted Victory, where he worked for a little bit. And now I think he's consulting independently.
Well,
which is quite the roller coaster to go on at a guy's age this young. But what kind of made this piece interesting is Hull has kind of prided himself on being, one of those people being like, hey, listen, I don't think that old comments should get people canceled, but if the left is going to play those rules, I'm just going to start digging through everybody's stuff and showing everyone how terrible they are.
Right.
And I guess it maybe it didn't occur to him that eventually someone would think to check that out for him too.
Right.
But
he's also one of those guys who tries to portray himself as he's one of the more serious guys, in terms he engages in the typical Twitter banter, but he's not like one of those racists, on the right. He doesn't openly espouse some of these words and not, at least not on his main account.
Well, I mean, to his credit, in the last year or so, he has been very vocal against, the quote unquote groypers or the, what we would think of as the white nationalist movement or whatever.
He's not one of those guys. He tries to. He tries to distance himself from those guys. But I mean, when we get down to it, I mean, maybe he's a changed man. Not changed enough to not still be on the right, but, changed man from those older posts. But, I just, to me, it's just like you're splitting hairs here when you want to, use the same words and espouse the same things, but you're just going about it by saying, but I'm not, part of that movement. I'm not, I didn't mean it when I said it. It's, we're splitting hairs here.
Yeah. And, instead of providing me a statement, Caleb Holt posted one on Twitter, in which he sort of said he was going through a hard time in his life at that period of time, and that these aren't views that he holds today, and that he regrets saying it. Kind of that sort of thing. It's on his profile if you're interested in going to check it out. If you read the story, it's down at the bottom of the piece. I've included it in full. I think that sort of the reaction I've been seeing from that apology, at least so far, has been some skepticism, especially in wake of some of the more recent things that he's posted just in the last month. Caleb Holt, mocked reports that a black NASCAR driver found what he believed to be a noose inside of the stall he was set to race out of, and posted a picture of a dangled up phone cord, being like, "Help! Someone, left a noose in my house." And I don't know. It's I think to some people who were skeptical, it was hard for them to square kind of some of the more recent, if we're going to use the New York Times polite words, racially tinged comments that Caleb Hull was making. To that apology, it just doesn't settle.
Right. Yeah. Well, Jared, what are we gonna do with these guys?
I don't know. Got to figure out a way to work with them or beat them at the polls, I guess.
Yeah. Well, this is another one of those like Parler. This is another one of those stories for another day. We got nine QAnon people running for Congress right now. Where I think.
No. There's
9 who have made it through their primaries, something like that.
Something like that. Alex Kaplan at Media Matters has been keeping the list, and I think he just went up to 58 last time I checked.
Right. So the number I saw then, because I did see a number that was 9 that means the total number running is 50 something, but the number who have made it through their primaries, I believe, is 9.
Oh God.
So this
that woman in Georgia is for sure gonna win, right? Marjorie, whatever.
Yeah.
I know one of them, it's she's pretty much set up to breeze into the Congress during that election.
Right. Yeah. Jared, one thing I have to say before we go to the before you bring out your dog is that you brought some wonderful people into my chat today.
The fan club?
The Jared Holt fan club. I mean, I remember how it was to have this back during Gamergate. See, you got the racist Nazis on you. I remember I had the sexist gamers on me. I remember how this was, but I gotta say, I didn't have a YouTube channel then, so it was all coming through Twitter, which you're used to seeing the Twitter replies go fast. With the YouTube chat, my poor mods are trying to keep up with, because I can't moderate this shit well. And I've made it quite clear that I let you get away with a lot of shit in my YouTube stream, as long as you're being, generally respectful of everyone else's ability to chat and enjoy the show. You want to espouse your right-wing views, that's fine by me. Hell, it provides me with content if I see something to bring up. But if you're just going to spam the N-word over and over again in the chat, then sorry, that's not helping anybody for a variety of reasons. You're going bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Well, Jared, let's get in those plugs and let's go to the second half of the show.
All right. You can check me out on Twitter at JaredLHolt. The stories I write are mostly found on rightwingwatch.org. I've got a podcast. It's called Shitpost. You can find it linked in my Twitter bio, or it's sh_TPOST on any place you find your podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and while you go get your dog, Jared, I'm just gonna do my plugs right here. I'm gonna turn your Skype down. Thank you for coming on, Jared. Folks, patreon.com/MattBinder. Support the show. That is patreon.com/MattBinder. That's right, I'm going to say it a third time. Patreon.com/MattBinder. You help make this show possible. And, by doing so, this show can grow. I can get additional equipment, get this show out there, because the show is not where it should be quite yet. technology. Whatever, you know what word I'm trying to use. Could use some upgrades on stuff. What else can you do? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MattBinder. Follow me on, also, while you're in here right now, Super Chats. Give a one-off donation right there in the YouTube chat. Super Chat. A lot of comments, not going to get to pretty much any of them, because Jared's sticking around. But we will read the Super Chats. Super Chats, go now if you want to get your comment read on the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, at Matt Binder on Twitter. Search for me on any other social media platform where I'm Matt Binder. To the right-wing buddies inside the chat right now, Parler.com. Search for me on there too, Matt Binder. Oh wait, Jared, you're not on the screen right now. You're back. There's the puppy. What else? Doomedpod.com for the podcast. Leave an iTunes review, Google Play review. And quickly, let me read the wonderful patrons who make this show possible. And then Jared will be, you guys can listen to the patrons as I read the patrons' names as I read them, while just gazing at the beauty that is Jared's puppy. What's his name, Jared? Oh, wait.
It's Pierre.
What is his name again?
Pierre.
Hi, Pierre. How are you?
He's doing pretty good. He's trying to lick me apart one little brush tip at a time. I don't think he's gonna last very long. We just put him down to sleep, so I'm gonna have to go put him back here in a second.
And what kind of dog is he, Jared?
He's a Pomeranian.
Ah, what a cool! I knew a Pomeranian who was a very feisty puppy. He acts like a human child, doesn't he?
He really does, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever do a small dog again. We had medium-sized dogs, big dogs, small dogs. I don't think I could do the small dogs again. They just act so different from dogs of other sizes. You just can't leave them alone without them acting like you're leaving literally a toddler alone.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
He's a sweetheart though, little genius.
Is that his? Is that his nickname, or you just called him that?
I just call him that. All right, I'm gonna go put him back. He's got to rest.
All right, cool. And then you'll be, and then we'll probably go to the second half the second you get back.
All right, sounds good.
Right. Abigail T, Alan B, Andrew C, Andrew H, Angela, Ari R, Baka, Ben, Benji, Bobby M, Brian S, Brosnan, Champagne Kami, Chris F, Christine H, Cindy G, Colin R, Connor R, CTA, Cul-de-sac, Cyber, Snowstorm, D, Dan K, Dank Uger, Dave K, David Z, Daya, Douglas V, Dragon Slayer, Earth Q, Eugene B, Fraz K, Free Hat, FTW, Graham C, Greywind, Greg D with 2 G's, Grim, Hitesh, Igor, In Our Words, Jack D, Jacob W, Jameson Test, Janelle A, Jasmine H, Jeremy M, JLS, John B, John S, Jonathan B, Joseph H, Joseph R, Joyce M, Justin S, Katie S, Kaushal, Kyle, Lisa D, Mariah, Mark S, Maddie J, Max W, me, Melissa M, Mitch V, Michael B, Michael J, Michael M, Mr. Danks, NS, Nick, Nicole A, Namdenet, No Style, Odeth, Paul M, Penelope D, Custer, Rad Dad, Remy, Ryan, Scott R, Seth K, Sean H, Sheena A, Silicone Baby, Stephen R, Stephen S, Steve A, Tammany G, Hypervisor, This Is Not Pizza, Tina M, Tom M, Why That Tie Guy, Wutopian, Zach M, and last but not least, Zoe G. We are now going to the second half of the show. Members only, patron only. If you're watching the live stream, you could stick around. But to everyone else, patreon.com/MattBinder. Otherwise, see you all next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. Welcome, patron subscribers, live stream watchers, and of course, my guest from the first half of the show, the free half of the show, who is now joining me for an exclusive for all you wonderful patrons. Jared, how are you doing? Jared Holt. Why did I just... this is technically a separate show. Jared Holt of Right Wing Watch. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, yeah, dude. I think that might have been the real Baked Alaska in the chat.
No,
now that I'm looking at it.
It definitely was. It definitely...
Why does he still have a YouTube account? Is he not banned?
It's possible he probably had a banned account, and then he just basically probably started a new account that maybe he just uses for comments. It's a lot harder to catch YouTube comments than if you have like a channel with like live video going up. You know what I mean? But is he uploading video there?
No, I just saw some people talking shit. You know?
Yeah.
Comes with it. Whatever, man.
Yeah. Baked Alaska, man. If you really want to come on this show, reach out to me, and let's actually schedule a real episode. So again, we could discuss your most important career move when you worked at BuzzFeed, maybe among other things, but that will be the focus. I love just digging that in there. Oh man, no, but
baked. Did you know Benny Johnson baked Alaska? Please, can you please answer me, sir?
Actually, I would be. I had, as a lot of people know, I had Caitlin Bennett, the Kent State gun girl, on this show, and I had her on basically because she had a lot of shit to talk about Turning Point USA. And to me, when I look at Turning Point USA and Caitlin Bennett, I see a meme online personality with basically no real power other than grifting people out of money for her own benefit. And then I see an organization that has real, actual, systemic, at least in terms of the system that is the right-wing machine from the GOP onward with Turning Point USA. And I think it makes sense to have her on to talk about that. Baked Alaska, if you have something on Benny Johnson, I would love to hear. I would love to hear it. Love to hear it.
Oh man, it would be the takedown Benny deserves.
It really would be. I mean, yeah, it would be quite something. Nothing I love more than. It's not even infighting at a point to people who really get the differences between these different subgroups on the right.
I mean, that would just be one for the real heads,
Yeah.
The people who have their brain completely rotted by this stuff. Like that's a prime time, pay-per-view matchup. I think we would all chip in a few bucks to watch.
Right. No, I'm serious, Baked Alaska. It makes zero sense for you to come on this show right now as a call-in to discuss for a minute, to just basically shit talk with Jared and I while we all go. Literally, I want to hear some I want to hear you turning on some other more prominent right wingers. Reach out to me if you have something like that. Renee with the super chat. So what's your advice to how upset the manly men of the fash are? Would you like to take that, Jared? What's your advice to how... What do you mean by your advice to how upset? You could have advice to them, but it doesn't seem like that's how you're wording it. What is...
Yeah, I'm confused what the wording is here exactly.
Reword that, Renee. Champagne Kami with the super chat. Thank you, Champagne Kami. Why do you think Fake Alaska is so intimidating? And Fake Alaska is Champagne Kami's words, not mine, Baked. Why do you think Fake Alaska... I mean, because really, I think you are the real Alaska, Baked Alaska. Why do you think Fake Alaska is so intimidated by Jared Holt? Would you like to take that, Jared Holt?
I don't know, man. Like, I really don't get it. Like... I've done some pretty damning reporting on him, I guess, that has haunted him for a while. But it was all true. I guess that's why he's still mad about it. I don't know. I'm just like one guy. I don't know what to tell you.
Now, correct me here if I'm wrong, Jared. But let's break down. Again, I don't want to get Baked Alaska. We can make this a separate episode for a full episode for another day. But so I don't want to go too into it. But Baked Alaska to me seems like a guy who really had opportunities to actually. He had opportunities to begin with, but also had opportunities to come around. Like, people looked at him more like a meme. Because of just how over the top he was, than, the equivalent to someone like Richard Spencer or, someone like that. Again, I'm not saying he didn't espouse horrible views and he didn't mean them, but the way he portrayed himself gave other people a feeling that they could give him the opportunity to turn around. I mean, you could just see it if you look at this isn't me saying this. You could just look at articles where it was like, I've seen more than one article for more than one separate occasion, basically reporting on a Baked Alaska live stream where it seemed like he sort of had some regrets. Am I wrong about that, Jared? That this was something that had happened and that this is a guy who had opportunities?
If I remember correctly, this was after the Christchurch murders, where a white supremacist shot and killed 51 Muslim worshippers in mosques in New Zealand. If I remember right, that was the incident. If it wasn't that, it was some other like right-wing mass killing. And Baked Alaska pretty much came forward and was like, we need to call this what it is. Right-wing extremism. The alt-right is bad. And like some people were just so ready to like let him have it. They were like, is Baked Alaska turning a new leaf? And then of course, give him 2 months and he's back to the same old shit. Yeah, but to what you're saying, I don't think anyone ever like mistook Baked Alaska for an intellectual or an ideologue.
Right.
Just kind of this like a guy who was kind of going along with like whatever would cause the controversy and like get the attention.
Right, which makes it ridiculous to me that, and Baked, I know you're listening in the chat. I mean, when I talk, it's just like, look at it as like free therapy. It doesn't make sense to me. Why a guy like that, who literally is just looking for the attention, wouldn't make the pivot to something that would still be ridiculous and horrible, but wouldn't get him banned from these platforms. Again, early on in this episode, on the free half of the show, the first half of the podcast that's open for everybody, I discussed a few YouTubers who were huge YouTubers, huge platform. It's their career to make videos, where they've been doing terrible shit, horrible shit, and they're finally getting called out for it, but they've gotten away with it for long enough to make millions of dollars off of it. Baked Alaska, why wouldn't you try to make millions of dollars off of just like being an online asshole, but just not taking that step to going full blown, white supremacist Nazi? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, you really only have to dial it back just a little bit.
Right.
And it seems like you can get through most of the guidelines.
Right. Like you could even been like one of those like, those big Facebook pages that are also a make bank, that basically are just a bunch of guys, showing off their guns, saying that like, if an Antifa guy came to my house, this is what I would do. And then they, shoot off in the range 100 shots. Like, it's very explicit what they're saying. And it's, it's still crazy that they're getting away with it. But they're tiptoeing around it enough so they do get away with it. It's it's bizarre to me that if your whole shtick is basically to cause outrage, that you wouldn't try to at least stay on the platforms that respond to that outrage, because otherwise you end up in a YouTube live stream of a guy with just like 100 live stream watchers begging to call into their their YouTube live stream show.
Yeah, man. There's so many better things to do, I guess.
I mean, listen, I love my listeners, and I get if you're in a small group, obviously I love them. I love a small community of people who you want to talk, like, leftism and stuff like that makes sense, obviously. But, if this is like, you don't find me shit talking in a YouTube chat. I'd love to go on a number of YouTubers' shows to debate. but you're not going to find me shit talking in their chat because that's sort of a waste of time. But again, in terms of coming on this show, big podcast audience, Baked Alaska. If you got any shit to share on Benny Johnson or any other of these right wing guys, I would love to hear it. Ron,
come on, Tim. I know you can do it. Just give Matt a call.
No, listen. I've had even though this was back on the majority part too. Sam Cedar is one of those types too, and that's where I get it from. That openness to whoever. Because I think we handle it in a certain way. We're not gonna let someone go on but Sam debated Stefan Molyneux. They had a full blown hours long debate. Molyneux was smart enough during that debate to just weaponize his libertarian ideals. I don't believe he rolled out the full blown white supremacy or straight up. I think misogyny is even a little too too lame to call what he is in terms of just pure hatred towards women. But yeah, I mean, I've had Caitlin Bennett on this show. I've had other various right-wingers on this show. I've been on... I recently debated Brandon Straka, the walk-away guy, on another program. So, listen, I'm open for anything. Ron, with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Ron. What's your take on Crystal Ball putting left ideology on par with Tucker Carlson's right-wing populism? I think she gives a cover to Tucker's proto-fascist ideology by allying with Tucker's son. Is it Sager? Is that how you say his name? I really don't really. I'm not familiar with him as much as I am with Crystal.
Sagar.
Sagar, yeah.
I'm a I do journalism in the written word most of the time, so I read these names. I don't always hear them, so I always butcher pronunciations.
That's the same for me. For someone who, and I don't know I know you also have a podcast, so maybe you're also like this when it comes to the podcast. But as someone who has been a YouTuber since working on Sam's show back in 2011, and podcaster again since working on Sam's show since 2011, and I've maintained doing some sort of YouTube and or podcasting work consistently throughout. I listen to, frankly, very little podcasts and YouTube streams. Most of my news consumption, even pundit consumption, is through reading. Is that the same for you in general, even with podcasts?
Oh, yeah, because I can, most of the time I can read faster than I can, watch something or whatever, so... Yeah, I read it all the time, and then for deep dive stuff, I love a good podcast format.
Right. So yeah, I don't know if you have any opinion on.
So I mean, I'll say that I can't speak to the specifics.
You could stick with Tucker, discussing Tucker and his right wing populism, if you don't feel talking about other people who aren't in that sphere.
So I don't watch Rising, so I don't know the ins and out. If somebody came at you don't know what they think because you haven't watched enough of it, it would be true in that case. I will say I've been a guest on Rising back in 2018. At that time, it was sponsored by Koch Industries. I just did it to get camera practice. But as a concept, right, that left populism and right populism can form some sort of holy alliance, I think it's such a mistake. I mean, getting these economic issues pushed forward is important, but if it's going to come at the cost of disparaging and terrorizing, our most vulnerable communities in the United States, that's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's getting healthcare is great, but if black people in your community are scared that the police are going to kill them with no consequences, it's not worth it. There's just lines you have to draw in this sand, and that's that's like a line for me that I'm not willing to cross personally.
Right. Crystal, I like her generally. I do think in general she's someone I would put as an ally to the left. To be honest, I know there's some people who listen to the show that disagree. I know there's a few very specific people who are regular listeners who don't like her, but I honestly view her the same way as like a Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi is not a right winger. She has some right wing, especially some right wing views. I wouldn't vote for her for president, but she's not a bad person to have as an ally. Because we're not gonna get everyone pure and perfect who espouses all the same exact ideological planks. It's just the truth. But if they hit the most important ones, then frankly to me that they're an ally, and we'll just have to come to this agreement on some other stuff. I do look at her like that. I disagree with her on. I mean, I probably wouldn't do a show with someone. I don't have a problem having a co-host who leans right. I think Cigar particularly is more problematic than just that. He's someone I would debate, but I don't know if I would work with him every day, which would become friendly with him. I would go on the Hill. I'd go on Rising for sure. I don't have a problem with that show in general. I just don't think, I think being with him specifically gives pass to some of the things he says. Now, in terms of Tucker specifically, he is not an ally. He is not someone who should be anywhere in the realm of the left. Populism or otherwise, because it's not right-wing populism. Give me a break. That's bullshit. And I do want to bring up Glenn Greenwald because I respect Glenn immensely. I truly, really like, and this isn't something where I think, Crystal, I like her, but there's I truly think I align with Glenn on like 99.99999% of things. I think what he has done in general with the work he's done is immensely important, and honestly makes him a figure that could have some bad views, and you just gotta deal with them because the good work he did greatly outweighed any possible view he has that you don't agree with. And I have no problem with him going on Tucker Carlson. Again, I would go on Tucker Carlson. My issue is sort of his defenses of Tucker, but then also when he goes on Tucker, he goes on and, just sits there with the elephant in the room. I would go on Tucker, discuss whatever I was brought on to discuss, but I don't think you could go on that show without bringing it back to, and you could easily do it within the topics you were brought on to the show for, bring it back to how Tucker is, not who he says he is on this shit. He's not who he pretends to be. He's a liar. He espouses horrible views. You can't go on that show and not call out Tucker or even Fox News in general on the very same issues they have you on. You come on, they have you come on to talk about how the Democrats are bad about a specific policy issue. Cool. I would go on there and shit talk the Democratic Party all day, every day. Fun. But my segment would not end with the Democrats, and then they go, "Thanks, Matt, for coming on the show today." You can't do that. I'm sorry. And you know what? I know for someone like Glenn Greenwald, they would let him say something. They're not going to cut him off. They would look way worse cutting Glenn Greenwald off. So he's open to do that. It's disappointing to me that he doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's about kind of about what I feel too. Huge respect for Glenn's work. Disagree with him on a few things, but am generally interested to hear what he has to say. Really wish he would challenge Tucker more.
Right. I mean, listen, I'm not someone who I honestly hate the people who are like, oh, don't have so-and-so on your show or don't go on so-and-so's show. Hell, I'm telling Baked Alaskan, I'm serious. He could literally contact me on any of the various networks I'm on, and we'll set something up if he's got something to talk about that, that's not just him bullshitting, whatever. I'm open to talk to anybody who's going to give me a substantial discussion. I'll go on anyone's show too. But and I hate the people who are like, Glenn's a fascist for going on Fox. Screw, if Glenn gets through to 2 people just from going on that show, it's one person. It's completely worth it if he's, espousing something that opens up their minds to the usual, beyond the usual Fox News talking points. And I mean that in general for anyone. So, I'm not one of those types. I hate those types. But, you can't go on those networks and just let them get away with doing the same shit. Just attack who they want to attack. Let's go to back to the super chats. Super chats. Who White with a super chat. Now I don't get this. Maybe this is some sort of insider alt-right thing. The only solution is cycle on B. Do you get that, Jared?
Skip it. It's a Holocaust joke.
Okay, there you go. I had a feeling. Renee, in Jared's experience, Renee reframed the question. In Jared's experience, how does one annoy the Ubermensch, I'm assuming Baked Alaska and types like him, the best? So what do you do to annoy them, basically? What do you do?
Man. Accountability, really. I mean, like, a lot of these guys are, out there posturing real tough and everything. Kind of, I guess, with this concept in their head that they're never going to be held accountable for any of this, or no one's ever going to call them on it. So I guess that, like, accountability seems to strike fear into these guys faster than anything else. And that's what I've tried to do with my work, is force that kind of accountability into these fears. And I have found it's been very effective. It's why people like Baked Alaska, to this day, haven't written anything about him in years, but I'm still on his tongue because I fucked his shit up too bad.
Yeah, you live, what is the phrase? Rent-free inside his head, Jared.
Yeah, something like that, man. I hadn't thought about Baked Alaska in months.
Yeah,
I'm surprised to see him here. I can't remember the last time I engaged with him. I think it was probably when... Actually, I don't talk about sourcing, so I'll leave it there. But you can put it together.
Right. So, Jared, what are you working on next? I mean, I understand if you can't give anything away, but maybe a little doomed patron exclusive, a taste of the next big scoop from Jared Holt.
So something I'm interested in doing running up to the election is you have all of these like new Twitter accounts and new social media accounts that have been kind of popping up over the last 4 years of the Trump presidency, where folks like Mike Cernovich and Jack Posobiec, they have these big influences, but their reputation is like bad enough, and they've been affiliated with stuff that's bad enough that they'll never go on Fox, and anytime the president like retweets them, it's a controversy or whatever. But you also have all these other figures, like one guy who goes by like DC Drano, or like all these sort of secondary cast of figures that are producing this content that's regularly going viral in right-wing circles. And to the best that I've seen, there haven't been a lot of people who have really like sat down and tried to figure out like who these people are and like what their deal is. Like, why do you spend 15 hours a day tweeting about Trump stuff on Twitter? Like, I'm interested to know what that is. So, and I figure like other people would be too. So, over the course of the summer, I'm gonna hopefully, once I get a second to exhale and breathe and like calm down, maybe once this puppy stops going crazy, I'd like to look into that stuff, I think.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting, Jared.
Hopefully it will be, man. Hopefully.
Have you what is your thoughts actually? Because this is something that I've been looking into myself. So what's his name? I'm having a mental block. He runs that newsletter. He used to work. I think he was a Media Matters guy, but he has a newsletter now on Substack that's pretty big. Oh my God, I'm having a mental block. But he did this big expose on Judd. I'm having a mental block. You know what I'm talking about.
Judd Legum.
Yes.
He was at Think Progress.
Think Progress. That's what I'm thinking of. Right. Right. He had that expose on why the Daily Wire's shit spread so much on Facebook. And it's because of this network of really big right-wing Facebook pages that, I mean, clearly there's some sort of deal with Shapiro's outlet, but they're not owned by Shapiro's outlet. I'm really interested in finding out more about those. Do you know anything more about those the people running those pages?
I don't know anything beyond what Judd has reported. I gotta
get him on the show.
Like I said earlier, I'm one guy, you know.
All right.
I've been working on this other stuff, but yeah, I'm super interested in that too.
Now I got to ask you a second question, Jared. Why are you only one guy? Why haven't you expanded beyond? Why aren't you now two individuals or three individuals? Or
so I live in an apartment in Washington D.C. Rent is very expensive. One might even say prohibitive from having a child. So there's one of me for now.
Is there really a prohibition on that in your? Is there like in your?
Lease?
No.
I'm saying it's too expensive to live in DC.
Oh, okay. Because I'll tell you there.
I'm complaining about the rent.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I live in NYC, buddy. So you're not getting any. It's not like I'm like living the high life when it comes to rent. But there are, and obviously it seems like it's pretty illegal. There is apparently rules from some landlords that explicitly say like you are not to be living more than like one or two people in this, and that includes if you have like a kid, and like some of them get really pissy if you dare to live your life and have a child while paying them rent.
That doesn't seem legal.
It probably is not, but also I don't know if this is legal. I see this all the time. Landlords asking for more money based on how many people are in your family. I mean, I think that seems very.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I mean, I've seen that enough and openly, where I think it probably is legal, which is ridiculous because. If I say that 4 or 5 people could fit in this 2-bedroom, then it's my life to live. It's. I'm being generous too. In terms of that. I mean, there's people who are living in much smaller than that. But. Renee with another super chat. Jared, you could take this one. We'll both take it, but you first. Why are fascists so afraid of wearing masks?
Afraid of wearing like COVID masks, yes. I assume.
Yeah.
That is a good question. I don't know. My best guess is that these guys see mask wearing as like part of the grander conspiracy arc of like government social control. That people are trying to tell them how to live and what they should do, and detracting their agency from the whole thing. But it just sounds silly to say it out loud, doesn't it? I don't know.
Right. It is stunning. And again, YouTube watchers, if you want your comments read, gotta click that super chat button. There's just too many comments today for me to go through them without them being highlighted. The thing to me about the mask wearing is that it is literally so simple to do. And you don't have to be a right-winger. You don't have to be a left-winger. It doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum because it really doesn't have anything to do with politics. I'm assuming if you are, a Baked Alaska, and I don't know if Baked Alaska has a girlfriend. Wouldn't surprise me if he did. Wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. But let's just say, for purpose of this case study, let's say he has a girlfriend. I'm going to assume his girlfriend has the same ideological beliefs as he does. And I'm assuming his girlfriend has a family. As this goes on, I'm assuming his girlfriend would want to see their family. I'm assuming he lives with his girlfriend too. His girlfriend would want to see his family. You wearing a mask protects your girlfriend's family, your right-wing girlfriend's family. Now, I don't get why that would be such an issue. Like, there's no, like, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you simply care enough about other people in your orbit, whether you know them, whether they're your family or extended family, or whether they're complete strangers who are walking by as you're headed to the grocery store. It just simply means you don't want other people to get sick. You hope they're also wearing a mask because they care enough about you to not get you sick. And then, hey, we can get rid of this whole pandemic thing a lot quicker and try to, we can have concerts again. We can have big events again. Trump can safely hold his rallies again. Wouldn't it be wonderful? I mean, it's really that simple. And if at worst, and this is the worst case, the masks do nothing, which again, there's enough studies that say they do something at the very least. But worst case is they have no effect at all. All you did was wear a cool face mask. I mean, they literally don't look like you literally look like, don't look lame or anything. You look like there's been plenty of pandemic movies where your favorite actor or actress is wearing something equivalent to it. Just pretend you're in one of those pandemic movies and you're cosplaying as, I don't know, Brad Pitt or something like that. It's not so hard to do. I mean, for the people who think you lose oxygen or something wearing masks, there's literally been people who actually have lung issues, who have the equipment to show what their oxygen rate or whatever it's called is. I'm not very good when it comes to medical stuff because I've been fortunate enough in life to be very healthy, so I don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff. But I've not had to because it hasn't been in my orbit. But they have those oxygen things they put on their finger that take their rate, and enough of them have done this. They put a mask on, they walk around, they run around, they come back, they take their oxygen rate. It's the same as it was when they weren't wearing a mask. It's like, this is simple shit. Simple shit. I don't know what to say about it. It's so frustrating.
I think you're totally right, man. You have nothing to lose, everything to gain. It's what is it? Not Pascal's wager. It's like a ancient philosopher who has like the God wager, basically, where it's like you gain everything by believing in God if it's true, or you lose nothing if you believed it and it wasn't true. It's like that. Masks are God, is what I am saying. Verbatim, exactly. Thank you.
Right. I gotta read this funny. It's not a super chat, but I gotta read this comment from Swissy Tom, who's definitely on to me. LMAO, yeah, that's why you want messages super chatted, not because of money grabbing. I mean, it's explicit as to why I'm asking for the super chats, because you gotta pay me money. I mean, it's not as like, what do you think? Like, of course. But anyone who regularly watches my stream knows that when there is a stream that has literally less than 5 comments every second, like this one does, I do try to go back and read as many super chats as possible, regular chat room comments as possible, and you can ask any regular listener. I'm sitting in here sometimes for 3 hours getting to all your questions and comments. Neither I or Jared have the time to do literally, this would take probably like 9 hours worth of comments in this stream right now. It's not happening. So sorry. Not happening. I'm getting some Twitter, some tweets showing me screenshots of the channels of some of the people who are in here. We got some gripers in here. A griper who is a fan of trap remixes. That's an interesting fellow. We got your run of the mill. We got some skeptics in here with a what flag is that? Is that an Atomwaffen flag or what is that? can't even. It's cut off because of the YouTube thing, so I can't be for sure. It looks like that to me. Is someone saying that they are a Boogaloo girl, or that there are Boogaloo girls in the stream right now? I didn't even know there were Boogaloo girls. Have you come across a single Boogaloo girl, Jared?
I can't say. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there are. It wouldn't completely surprise me, but
so that flag is Imperial German flag.
Thank you. I could not quite
make
out because there's text on there. You see that, right? I'm not even gonna. It's
Yeah, it's cut off. It's hard to know for sure.
Hector says 25,000 city workers in NYC will be laid off. This is and this could be a whole nother show. And I know you're in DC, Jared, but we're about to in New York City. We're about to lay off 22,000. I think is the exact number. Municipal workers, literally people who were on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic when it hit New York City the hardest, who were working during that time. We're about to lay them all off. Thanks for helping us out when we needed you. Peace. That's basically what de Blasio...
jet planes fly over.
Right. That's literally what de Blasio is doing. Because he could not come up with budget cuts to anything else, or revenue, raising revenue through anything else. Tax the rich more. There should really be a vacancy tax in this city. It is ridiculous to me there is not. If I was running for office... Oh,
yeah. There's so much empty property in Manhattan alone.
If I was running for office, my number one talking point, policy proposal would be a vacancy tax. A very high vacancy tax. One that would make it completely insane for you to have a vacant apartment in the city of New York. Or he refused to cut even $1 billion from the NYPD's over $5 billion budget. And he's now flaunting that they cut $1 billion from the NYPD's budget. But what they really did is they took almost half of that budget, and they gave it to school enforcement officers who are the NYPD, who they're basically just calling something different now so they can continue to give them that money. So we didn't even give cuts of $1 billion to the NYPD, which is what all the media is really running with, which of course is getting the right-wingers upset in this city who are, I can't believe de Blasio cut our boys in blue. No, first of all, that money doesn't even go to individual, officers in terms like you think we're cutting $1 billion and it comes out of the salaries of the NYPD members, the rank and file.
Yeah. There's just like one street cop who was making $1 billion a year for some reason. They finally fixed that on the payroll.
Right. Whoops. It's that drill tweet. De Blasio is writing, 25 million for homeless, 150 million for poverty, food poverty, 200 million for education, 1 billion for a single rank and file NYPD officer Bob in I don't know, Howard Beach, Queens. Help me with my city budget. It's killing my city. It's that tweet, It's but
what can I cut? What can I do?
But even not joking, like literally the cuts to the NYPD aren't going to even affect the salaries of the rank and file. Those cuts literally are to the bullshit pork type crap. Like the NYPD has a fucking they have wait, this isn't the NYPD what I'm thinking of, but another city I was talking about has a fucking Tesla program. They don't need fucking Teslas. Give me a break. There was another. I think L.A. has a cruiser that's a fucking Lamborghini or some shit. That's the type of shit you can cut. What does any municipal or what does any city worker need a Lamborghini for their job? That's ridiculous. But the real cuts to the NYPD are going, or at least they should go to, are to the militarization stuff. NYPD doesn't need a tank. They don't need full-blown military gear. They don't need tear gas and that shit. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, think, as much lip service as DC's mayor has paid to, Black Lives Matter and supporting the cause and everything. If I remember correctly, she also went on record being like, "Oh, no, we're not taking money out of the police department. That's not happening."
Right.
So, I mean, seems to be a common theme is what I'm seeing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, and then what? Oh yeah, today, what was it? The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone got dispersed. Right. That ended today. Seattle shut down.
In Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, Seattle.
Man, I was so deep in this this Caleb Hull story that I missed everything. I feel like.
Listen,
R.I.P. to the Chaz. Apparently, stuff was getting pretty bad in there, though.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of this, I don't know enough about on the ground stuff there. I don't claim to. I don't think it's, I think sometimes there are individuals and movements that get carried away or aren't for the cause. And I'm not even talking about agitators or violent protesters at marches who are doing destruction to Walmarts and shit like that. There's certainly a place for all sorts of different direct actions during, protest. That's not what I'm talking about. But, when you have something like the Chaz, we also saw it down in Occupy, you're going to get people who are just straight up taking advantage and aren't even taking part in direct action. They're just literally there to, stroke their ego and do all sorts of stuff. Now, again, I don't know if that's what happened down there. I've heard some stuff that sounds like things like that happened down there. But, it really pissed off the right, the Chaz.
Yeah, we had one. They tried to do it in DC, and I was like, oh, that could be interesting. But, yeah, DC police didn't let that last very long.
Yeah, I mean, NYC under Bloomberg had Zuccotti Park under Occupy. But, again, that lasted longer than Chaz, actually. But then again, we didn't have any people walking around with open carrying, AKs and shit like that. I didn't even know you could do that in Seattle.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I mean, I know Chaz was you could get away with doing stuff, but it seems like walking around with firearms is something that it seems like you wouldn't be able to get away with even getting there with him. But who knows? I don't even know. Miss Heathen says the far right push so much bullshit about Chaz. Right, the Chaz shooting was completely covered by the far right as soon as it happened. Yeah, there was a shooting there. I don't know all the details because it seems like it's still pretty unclear, but it seems like a bunch of people came around destroying shit, and then a car, and then that car disappeared, and then a similar looking car came back, and there was a confrontation with that car and some armed people who were in the Chaz, and there was a shooting, and it turns out those weren't the same people, and it wasn't the same car.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently there was a car full of teenagers, and one of them died. Apparently, I'm pretty sure that's the reason why that shit was shut down today.
Jeez.
With Occupy, it never got like that. But what did happen in Occupy was the cops were sending some troublemakers down there to cause all sorts of shit. At Occupy, when I say troublemakers, I mean the worst we got at Occupy was someone pooping on a cop car or some shit like that. I think vaguely, now that I remember it, actually the worst was probably, I think there was someone, and this was vaguely remembering, so this isn't completely, but there was a case where someone was sent down there, someone who wasn't originally there, who had just gotten out of jail or something, who was literally would know nothing about this thing and was sent down there, and then ended up assaulting a woman or something like that. It was just a lot of bullshit happens at these otherwise well-intentioned things like Chaz seemed, and obviously to a much greater extent Occupy. Occupy sort of gave rise to a lot of the modern tactics that we see a lot of these protests. Actually, it failed to do what it set out to do. Messaging wise, it didn't, but in general, Occupy left the failures and some successes in its wake, I guess. But that's, again, another show for another day when it comes to Occupy. Going on a tangent now.
Speaking of another show for another day, I've got to jump off here.
That's perfect timing, buddy, because I'm about to pass out too. We got you've stuck around me for a long time. I really appreciate it, Jared.
Yeah, of course, man. I always love coming on too.
So Jared, we gotta get you back on when your next show happens. Your next piece drops. Say hi to your little puppy for me, and always a pleasure. Have a great night, buddy.
Always a pleasure, man. Take care.
Peace. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Even you right-wingers who didn't ruin the chat, I appreciate you sticking around and listening and not spewing the N-word and other homophobic or racist spam comments. I also appreciate the people who just weren't spamming outright. Listen, I put up with a lot of shit. Just don't be a fucking, be an asshole, not a complete piece of shit. There you go. If you're still here, Baked Alaska, again, it's literally open for next time. Email me, message me on Twitter, wherever you want to message me. There were some of them I saw, Zoe, that weren't ruining the chat. Calling Jared Holt a snitch or making fun of my beard, I don't mind that shit. That is just basic, trolling asshole behavior. I don't mind that shit. Truthfully, I don't mind that silliness. So, yeah, Baked Alaska, if you're still there, or if any of you right-wingers, if he's not there, if any right-wingers want to see Baked Alaska, reach out to me. You should let him know. Tell him to bring something substantial. I want to take down someone in his orbit that he doesn't like. Zoe says Baked Alaska ran with his tail between his legs. Samuel says, what's up with the beard? I don't know. It's just a beard. It's not the fullest beard in the world, but it's just a beard. Trust me, you guys, if you saw me without the beard, you'd be like, this dude can't be older than 18 years old. Or at least that's how I looked the last time I didn't have a beard, which is why I grew a beard. Swizzy Tom says, your beard is fine, but Holt is certainly a snitch. Well, I mean, Holt's a journalist. And he simply reaches out to different platforms and asks, why is this person on your platform when he is breaking this rule, and that rule? Holt actually is not one of those guys, and there are a few of them out there, some people who I actually also respect, but Holt is not one of those people who go out there and advocate for someone to be banned from a platform, literally look into his work. He just reaches out to these platforms and says, here's YouTube, for example. He reaches out to YouTube and says, hey, Stefan Molyneux's latest video says this shit. Your policies are this and this. And this is just an example. I'm not saying this is an exact case. I don't know if he did this for Molyneux. And he reaches out and he says, can I get a comment or a statement? He's not one of those people who says, get them off. He doesn't contact advertisers. He's not one of those people. it's well within these platforms' rights to say, we're letting this person stay on. That's your state. That's our statement. It's that simple. Swizzy says, literally just describing being a tattletale and doing exactly that. That's not being a tattletale as a journalist discussing an issue with a company or a platform or a major figure or anything like that. That's just not a tattletale. A tattletale in your scenario would be someone in Molyneux's orbit snitching to YouTube. I mean, Jared Holt is under no allegiance to Molyneux. A tattletale is someone who tells on a friend or a classmate or something. What is Jared Holt to Stefan Molyneux? Nothing. That's not a tattletale. If I outed my brother or best friend or someone I'm on a chat with, if I was invited to Jared Holt's stream and and before the stream started, he told me something and I went out and said, "Oh, this is that you could classify as a tattletale." I mean, technically that would be even, unethical if it was off the record specifically. But what allegiance does Jared Holt have to Stefan Molyneux or anyone to be a tattletale for? I mean, Swizzy says you have to be friends with someone to be a tattletale. No, not necessarily friends. That's just an example. To tattle on someone, I mean, that's my understanding of it. If you want to look at the definition of a tattletale, I don't know what the exact definition is. But you tattle on a classmate. But if they're not your classmate, a person, especially a child, who reveals secrets or informs on others. Well, in this scenario, Molyneux was open with whatever he said on his YouTube. There's no secret. There's no informing on others. It's right there on the platform, broadcast on YouTube. YouTube is certainly aware of it as a channel with 1 million subscribers. Jared's reaching out for a comment. I mean, I don't get right-wingers who want truth in journalism and hard-hitting facts in journalism. Every single major story, major break, big scoop that even you guys have loved is because someone has come out and blown a whistle. Someone, in your terminology, which I still disagree with is the proper term, tattled on someone. It's literally the basics. Again, if someone is a partner in crime, if two people burglarize a bank and one person outs the other person as the burglar, I would say you can call that person a tattletale. I still think it's a lame term to use. Sort of again, usually a child is the definition, but fine. But that's the scenario where I think that's a legitimate scenario. In journalism, that's not everything would be under the definition of tattletale to you. Ryan says, Matt, why are you entertaining this whiny, concerned dumbassery? Well, it's the second half of the show. It's the fun half, and that's what we do on this half of the show. We entertain whiny, concerned troll dumbassery. It's fun. Vanglo says, Jared's intention is to get them banned. He even bragged about it tonight. I fucked Baked Alaska's shit up. Well, no, he said that in reference to a question about why Baked Alaska doesn't like him. That's the absolute truth. He fucked Baked Alaska's shit up. It is always in the right of Twitter, YouTube, or whoever to say that, no, that's not breaking the rules. Baked Alaska is allowed to stay on the platform. All Jared Holt did was report on what Baked Alaska publicly put out there. Again, he did not find some secret information about Baked Alaska. Because frankly, that wouldn't have got Baked Alaska booted from those platforms, most likely. Baked Alaska openly and very publicly published things on those platforms that those platforms were very open to seeing. I mean, they literally were hosting the content. And he just reached out for a statement. And factually, yes, Baked Alaska does not like him because he fucked Baked Alaska's shit up. I mean, even someone on the right has to understand. You could disagree, but you have to. I mean, that's your opinion to disagree, but you have to understand that a lot of journalism comes from that. And what I'm saying is completely legitimate. Again, even if you don't subscribe to it. Bigolemio with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Big. These kids are terrible, Matt. Literally defending an ethno-nationalist like Stefan Molyneux. You have a lot of patience to put up with their racist temper tantrums. Thanks for a great show. And with that, folks, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MattBinder, twitch.tv/MattBinder, at MattBinder on Twitter, at MattBinder on Parler, to all my right-wing buddies, at MattBinder on Instagram, search MattBinder everywhere else. Doomedpod.com for the podcast. Patreon.com/MattBinder if you're not already a patron. Any of you right-wingers in the chat, reach out to me. Watch future shows. I do call-in shows. I went too long with Jared to do call-ins today. And I'm never going to turn down a guest who's got substantial stuff to say. Because I could do call-ins anytime, whereas I had Jared right now. Feel free to call in any future call-in shows. Otherwise, wait, one last super chat. Renee, the Nazis came up with Lugan Press. They hate any journalism that doesn't do puff pieces like Barry Weiss. Folks, see you all next time on Doomed.